very special afternoon program for you, as you've seen in the program that's been given to you, and in particular two very special guests that have come out from Britain in a very big hurry. They had a huge event to be at last weekend, and initially our rally date was just not going to work. But I don't know how they did it, but they've managed to pull strings, work things around, and they're in New Zealand. In fact, they're right here. But I'm going to leave Dan Munt to introduce them, and then they'll do their presentation, followed by some prepared questions, and if there's time, we can have other questions before our afternoon tea. So Dan, if I could hand over to you. Dan, I'm sure most of you know or know of him. He's Managing Director of Auckland Motorhomes, who's the official importer of Auto Trail. And so I think it's appropriate that he introduces our UK guests. Thank you.
Hi everybody, it's great to see a large crowd and a great presentation of motorhomes outside. It makes me proud, and even I know my English friends are quite proud. So yeah, they flew a long way, direct flight. They're looking better than what they did 2 days ago. I looked a bit terrible when I fly back from. Okay, so I introduce you to Dave Thomas, the CEO, and Scott
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a great show outside. I know in talking with David, he was expecting maybe 80 vehicles, and to achieve 95 is a great sight. It's a great welcoming sight for us to come from the UK and see you all lined up and in such great weather. It wasn't great weather this morning when we left Auckland, but it's great weather now. Scott Stevens is our Director of Sales.
Excuse me, just one moment. Could you please use the microphone?
Sorry, yeah.
Is that better? Yes. Okay, we can all hear you now. So let me start again. Scott Stevens. Scott's our Director of Sales and Marketing. So today we would like to do a presentation in 2 halves. I'll do the first half, which is to basically show you Auto Trail, the history of Auto Trail, where we've come from, how we started, and through to where we are today. And then Scott will take over and give you a quick rundown or a flavour of our 2018 models, which we've just launched last week at the Birmingham show in England. Okay, so to start off then, you probably can't see that from the back, but that's just a quick family tree of Auto Trail, who we are. There's myself, and then we have our FD, Shane Devoy. We have our 4 senior managers, which is Simon Ellis, which is in charge of procurement, Steve Moverley, who runs our design development department, Scott, and Cal Bristow, who looks after production. As you may know, we are part of a large European group, Trigano. Trigano is based in France, and these are the brands in our group which have been added to recently. You can see Auto Trailer there. The group has recently purchased Adria, which is a Slovenian company, you may well know. Other companies which might be familiar to you are Roller Team, Chasson, and Autosleeper, also in the UK. The group is now a 1.4 billion euro turnover group. With, at the last count, we had 82 companies in the group, ranging from motorhome manufacturers, trailer tent manufacturers, touring caravan manufacturers, And we also have a company in Northern Ireland that make garden sheds. when we were told this, the images of a couple of guys and a bucket of creosote maybe, but no, they make metal sheds, and they make 350,000 metal sheds, garden sheds a year. So it's it's slightly different than what you can imagine. So we have various companies within the group. We have accessory companies. We have trailer companies, which are as far north as northern Norway, Galpen. We have companies in Tunisia who make wiring harnesses, they do fiberglass, and also seat fabrics. So it's quite a diverse group. And our chairman started life for Trigano. He was a Trigano employee, and the company got into difficulties, and he bought the company for £1. But he also bought the debt. So the debt was several millions of francs, as it was then in those days. And over a period of 2.5, 3 years, he turned the company around, and today he still owns 57% of the shares. So that is Trigano, and he's obviously very proud of the achievement. Okay, so moving on. Auto Trail. These are our typical products. We're based in Grimsby in northeast Lincolnshire. For those of you who know England, or maybe who don't know where Grimsby is, we are across the river from Hull, and we are about 50-60 miles east of Leeds. So it's quite a rural area. But that side of the country is the hub for caravans and motorhomes in the UK. And I believe it all started where Scandinavian timber was being brought into the UK, and there was so much of it, people didn't know what to use the wood for. And somebody started building lightweight temporary buildings, which evolved into touring caravans. And eventually we have companies such as Swift, you've probably heard of Swift Group PLC. Ourselves, there's Willoughby, there's Cosalt, Coachman Caravans, so that all the majority of the UK manufacturers are based in our area. So Auto Trail, this is our portfolio of vehicles. We make van conversions. Starting with our Tribute range, moving on to V-Line, which is our mid-specified van conversion models. Imala, which is our, I wouldn't say entry-level product, it's our lightweight product. I know in New Zealand you have different driving regulations, but certainly in the UK, 3.5 ton is becoming more and more important as people, having passed their driving test after 1997, cannot drive over 3.5, cannot drive a vehicle over 3.5 tons without a specific new test. So 3.5 tons is quite important. And then moving up to our Tracker and Apache ranges, which are our stalwarts. We've had these in the range for a number of years. And then topping the range are our Frontiers, which are Comanche, Delaware, Scout, Serrano, and such. Okay, so this is where it all started. The gentleman on your left you see there is a gentleman called Bill Bozeman, and Bill used to own a touring caravan company in Grimsby called Mustang Caravans, and he sold the business to one of the major manufacturers, and then went off to tour America with his money. And while he was there, he saw all these wonderful RVs driving around North America, and very soon got itchy feet and thought, well, I can see an opportunity here in the UK, so I'm going to go back home and I'm going to start to build motorhomes. And as well as with that thought, he also thought, well, I need a brand, and I also need some product names. So in coming back from America, he brought all the Indian names with him. So the names that are familiar with ourselves now, Bill brought back as the portfolio names for Auto Trail. So Bill you see on the left, and a nice little fact, our office general manager Liz is Bill's daughter, and Liz still works for Auto Trail, so we have continuity of the family within the current company. And even though the company's grown over the years, we still tend to have a family-orientated business, and it's quite nice. So this is some of the product that Bill made. It was all quite interesting, shall we say. And Bill, even though I never knew Bill, we've obviously heard stories. He's quite an interesting character. And we'll come to how we build vehicles a little bit later, because we do build vehicles different from everybody else. But Bill was very much paying everybody in cash. He was quite a bit of a stalwart and didn't suffer fools. Everything was made to order, and literally people would pitch up with sketches of motorhomes and basic designs, and Bill would sort of scratch his head and say, yeah, okay, give me a few weeks maybe, and we'll see if we can knock something up. So what you see here is I think it's a Peugeot pickup-based Auto Trail, and the one on the right is the largest, and still to date, I think it's the largest Auto Trail ever built. It was on I think it was on a Mercedes truck chassis. So, Bill with Auto Trail sold out to a company called ESV, and they were a horsebox manufacturer. But unfortunately, ESV were a couple of shady characters, and whilst they bought the business from Bill, they bought it on a situation where they would pay him over a period of time rather than paying him the full amount for the business. And whilst they were trading, they were doing such things as invoicing the same vehicle to 2 or 3 different finance companies at the same time. Needless to say, they ended up in jail. And so Auto Trail was then into receivership, and it was bought by ABI Caravans. ABI Caravans were based in Beverley on the North Bank, and they were at that particular time they were the largest touring caravan manufacturer in the UK. They used to build in the region of about 10,000 caravans. Some time later, ABI bought Auto Trail, and ABI themselves got into difficulties, and unfortunately, whilst Auto Trail were profitable, ABI as a caravan company went into difficulties, so they went down, and unfortunately they dragged us with us. We then did a management buyout. Let me just go back to the last slide, Scott. The 2 guys on the right in the photograph, the gentleman on the left is Rob G. Rob's our old managing director, and the guy on the right is Guido Carissimo. And Guido was the general manager of CI in Italy, and CI bought 75% of Auto Trail, and the management funded the other 25%. So it was a joint buyout with CI of Italy. Post the buyout, this is us building our 100th vehicle. This is when we were still based in Immingham, and this is the 100th vehicle coming off the production line. For those of you with keen eyes, you'll probably see some people here that you may recognise. I'm second from the left, with slightly more hair at that time. And stood behind me is Shane Devoy, who's now our financial director. So with the funding from Caravans International, it enabled us to move on and design new product, which was always difficulty with when we were under ABI, because the purse strings were always very tight. And but we've always thought ourselves as being an innovative company and trying different things. So the vehicle you see on the left is a Fiat Scudo with an Alco chassis, and this was the first auto trail tracker. So it's quite a unique vehicle. It had car driving characteristics with a coach-built body on the rear. The vehicle on the right is a Renault-based Miami, again with a front-wheel drive chassis, and the body being full GRP. So with we were under the should we say under the wings of CI for approximately 3 years. And then in turn, CI were bought by Trigano. CI at that time were building in the region of 5,000 vehicles a year, and we were building around about 800. Trigano bought CI, and of course in buying CI, they also bought this little company in England called Auto Trail. So moving on from that, we were able to fund a new factory, which is about 6 miles from Immingham in Grimsby, on a nice business park, which is called Europark. And unfortunately, the developers of the business park, they didn't want any manufacturing companies. I think they were under the impression that they were going to fill the business park with graphic designers and architects and nice things like that. So they didn't want anybody making, nasty manufacturing. So when we first moved in, we were not allowed to have any motorhomes on display outside. All our stock had to be behind the factory. So quite strict rules from a manufacturing side of things. But we were quite lucky because we had the Duke of Kent open the factory. It was quite a coup because it's to have somebody from royalty come and open a little motorhome factory in northeast Lincolnshire was quite an event. And this is a photograph of the Duke of Kent and Rob G at the front of the production line. In the background is our chairman, Francois Fouillet. Okay, so models, again, new construction, GRP roof, GRP back panels, moving on from the traditional Auto Trail aluminium box vehicles. We try to create more shape of the product to make it more appealing to customers. So this is an aerial view of where we are now. The plant at the bottom right is the Auto Trail factory. We have the main factory, which is on the bottom. The factory just above it on the left-hand side was our second factory. And then we have the car park at the rear. We've since expanded that. Okay, but I don't know if you can see it at the back, but it's quite sketchy, isn't it? Yeah. Well, what it shows there is our expanded factory, where we now have 16 acres as the site, and the building is 16,000 square meters. Now that's maybe a bit better, you can see that. We have a U-shaped production line. We make all our own sides, floors. We bring in GRP from our suppliers. The only things we bring in as from outside is the worktops, the furniture doors, and the fiberglass. Everything else is made on site. Even all the design work is done in-house. So this is the latest visual of the plant. The section on the right is building number 1. This is, on the left, is building number 2. And what we've done, we've bridged between the two buildings, down the centre in the shape of a letter L. The frustrating thing with the two buildings, even though they were built at different times, they were frustratingly not the same height. One building was 100 millimetres lower than the other, but it wasn't even a consistent 100 millimetres. It was 60 millimetres at the rear, lower, and 100 millimetres at the front. So for the builder, it was no easy task. So we now have a series of ramps and slopes to meet the two buildings together. But this is the final outcome. These are some images within the plant. We have CNC routers, we have computer-controlled beam saws, we have vertical routers for routing the sidewalls of the vehicles, and the production line is a dedicated line with component feeds from the side. I can't even read this myself. Oh, right, okay. In building the new plant, we took the opportunity to try and push our green envelope. So we converted all the interior lights to LED lighting. We have rainwater harvesting. So we have a large tank which is sunk into the car park. All the water that's collected there flushes all the toilets within the building. And we also have a biomass wood burner. So all the waste from the CNC routers and the saws, all the wood waste, including the pallets where components are delivered on, are sent through a chipper, and we chip everything, and we burn and we heat the new extension of the factory completely free. We also get a feed-in tariff from the government because we're not using raw energy, new raw material energy in the form of gas. So we get a feed-in tariff. So it's from a green footprint, it's very good. Machinery, right? Okay. As I've probably just said, we've invested quite heavily in CNC machines. In the past, the furniture would have been made by skilled craftsmen, and unfortunately those types of skills are dwindling away, and we have to try and achieve the same goal by switching the emphasis away from dedicated skills of carpentry into computer-aided design and CNCs and beam saws. One of the things we pride ourselves in at Auto Trail is that we try and cater for vehicles and try and give the customer exactly what they want. We're quite used to doing variations on vehicles. It's in our blood, probably from when the company first started, where we used to build literally. People, as I said, people would come along with a sketch, and we would build a vehicle to their requirements. So we're quite adept at building different models with different options. But over the years, we've standardised, and whilst we do give a large range of product, there's a great deal of standardisation within that product. So whether you have seat frames or lounges or showers or beds, we interchange all the products throughout the ranges. So as I was mentioning earlier, we build vehicles a little bit different from anybody else that I know of. we build the body completely away from the chassis. And going back to Bill's days, there are two reasons he did that. The first reason was, and as I said, Bill was quite a canny guy, was cash flow. So Bill had this idea that if he built the bodies ready for when the chassis arrived, he could drop the bodies on the chassis, sell the complete vehicle, pay Mercedes, as we were there, 100% Mercedes chassis, and he'd given the ability to pay Mercedes before he had to pay his component suppliers. And that's the reason why that's the reason why Bill built the body separate from the chassis. The second reason is that in building the body, you can build a completely square and true body. If you put the floor on the vehicle and then load the floor with furniture, you can get twist. So we have in doing what we do, we build a completely square, flat, true body, which is structurally rigid, and then we lower that onto the chassis and bring the chassis up to the rigid body, and that's when it's all bonded and bolted together. The quick section on the left shows how we make the sidewall to the floor. We have an aluminium extrusion which runs right the way down, and over recent years we've moved away from having wood in the sides. We now use polyurethane at the bottom of the side, which is the section you can see in the black, and the grey material is a PVC. Again, it's dimensionally stable. It has no grain, so it's consistent, and it's more of an engineering material than wood. Plus, also it's water resistant. So all our auto trails are all built the same way. Whether you're buying a Tribute right the way up to a Comanche, all vehicles are all built the same way. The only difference with the vehicles is the specification. These are just some shots of some details of our production process. The photograph in the top left is, as I said, we do all our own design work in-house using computer-aided modelling. That there is a master pattern which will go away to one of our suppliers to form a mould for the fiberglass. The next picture along on the top is structure, and again, those of you with auto trails, you probably don't know what's underneath the fiberglass, but we try and show people that, as well as the external shapes, that is quite strong structure underneath, where we tie the cab back to the body. And then moving along, we have last year, or 2 years ago now, we did some quite intense work with Thomas Witter on tow bars. Tow bars are becoming more and more popular, and Witter are a renowned company in the UK. So working with them, we designed a removable tow bar and also a cycle carrier. Cycles tend to be, most vehicles tend to be mounted high up. We thought to have, it'd be far easier not only for the user, but also for the dynamics of the vehicle, is to have the cycles carried low down at the rear. So working with Thomas Witter, we created a cycle carrier. Bottom left picture it shows a detail of what we do with the chassis. All our vehicles are built currently on Ducato. We then mount a series of bearers down the vehicle, support bearers to support the floor, and then the surfaces are run down the centre of the floor like a spine. So gas, water, electric is all run down the centre of the floor. Okay, we've been lucky enough to certainly get a collection of awards over recent years, either in crystalware or certificates. I think this is a shot of what, 2 years ago, Scott? Caravan Club Awards in the UK, which I guess must be similar to your New Zealand Motorhome Society, where we scooped 6 awards. So it was quite an achievement. It was quite a little bit embarrassing for the guys going to collect the awards, because it seemed to seem they were up and down all the while. But well, it was a good evening. Shot on the left shows our design team. We have quite a young design team, or relatively young design team. And they not only design the product, but they control all the machines on the shop floor. So they program the CNC routers, they program the beam saws, and we're quite, should we say, when the guys design the vehicle, if they're designing a component, they have to see it all the way through. That we don't believe in designing a vehicle and then when it hits the production line or when it hits the prototype stage, they walk away, it's somebody else's problem. No, they have to own the vehicle right the way through into the production process. So which makes them more rounded as a designer, because they know that they're going to have to go down on the shop floor and talk to the guys on the shop floor and either argue their case or explain why they've done things a certain way, and also take criticism as well from the production guys. So it's a relatively young. We use solid modelling, which we model everything. We get a full chassis model from Fiat, which sometimes we have to strip out because it's quite memory hungry. But we design everything. We model everything, all the cookers, the fridges, the cabinet work. Everything is modelled to ensure that when the vehicle is built, everything's going to go together in the correct way. We come using SolidWorks, which is the kind of industry standard in the UK. And we've been using this now for nearly 6 years. Okay, these are our moving down into the southern hemisphere. Whilst we have something like 30 dealers in the UK for Auto Trail and Tribute, these are our partners in the southern hemisphere. We 2 or 3 years ago, we managed to get full ADR approval for Auto Trail for Australia, which was no mean feat, because just when you think you've managed to tick all the boxes and you've managed to comply with all the regulations, the Australians are very good at just giving you one more thing to achieve. But it took 2.5 years, and I think we're one of the very few European manufacturers that's got full ADR approval for Auto Trail. Top right is Ashburton RV. Ashburton are our importers of Tribute brand, both coachable and van, and obviously they're based in Ashburton on the South Island. Bottom left is Sydney RV, and Sydney RV are a dealer as opposed to an importer, and they're a dealer which come under the umbrella of Elite RV in Australia. And last but not least, bottom right, we have Auckland Motorhomes, and Auckland are the official importers of Auto Trail into New Zealand. Sorry? Oh, and also Canterbury RV, I'm told by now. Okay. Right, these are your counterparts in the UK. Every year we have a factory rally, and normally we take over the local racecourse in Market Raisin, and typically we have about 150, 160 vehicles. And it takes place over a weekend, and we bus people in, and we have games, we have a hog roast or a barbecue, we have factory tours, and it's a really good day. And in the evening we join the members for a dance and a news and a quiz in the evening. Like we've just had, there's a drone shot from from last year's meet, and some shots of the day. This next year, it's the UK Water Trail Owners Club 25th anniversary. So they're pushing the boat out, and they're having an even bigger event at Doncaster Racecourse. So we're expecting 225 vehicles at Doncaster Racecourse.